Hey folks, Carl here and welcome to episode 2 of this guest build for eModels.co.uk of ICM's Ford Model T early.
eModels.co.uk. Make something awesome.
Okay folks, so we're back. We are going to stretch some of this. Now, whenever you get your old sprues, you can see I've already used this piece to stretch some. So save the straight bits for stretching sprue, okay? All these smaller bits like this, cut them off, okay? And save these bits for when you need to make some sprue goo, because these will just go inside your Tamiya extra thin that you've got left for making sprue goo. So save these bits. Save these bits. They are going to come in very useful. What else are we going to need? Okay, so we are going to need a little tea light like this, okay, and something to light it with, obviously. So I do need to say that if you are a younger modeler, okay, and you are trying this for the very first time, okay, get a little bit of adult supervision, all right? Obviously, you are working with naked flames. It is dangerous, okay? I'm talking of dangerous, make sure anything that's flammable that's on your desk is packed away and out of the way, okay? So nothing sets on fire and we don't have any disasters. So this is very easy once you've done it at least once, okay? It becomes very, very easy. You do get a technique. So we're going to light the tea light like so. Okay, you can do it with just the lighter, all right, but it means you've got to hold the lighter while you're doing it, and this thing gets very hot if it's lit for a long time. So you're better off with one of these. And all we're going to do, okay, we'll take a bit of sprue. I'll zoom you in a little bit so you can see 50-50 chance there. So all you're going to do is hold the sprue, not in the flame, probably about an inch, half an inch above the flame, and you're just going to keep on rotating it like so. Just let it warm up nice and slowly. There's no rush here. You rush it, you'll melt the plastic too quickly and you'll make a mess of it. Just keep rolling it over, and at some point you'll start to see it bend on its own. It'll start to go, there you go. This piece is now starting to bend on its own, all right? You see that? It's wobbling, okay? Give it a little bit longer, and then you're literally just going to move away from the flame, grab the other end, and just very gently pull. Keep on pulling until you get that thickness that you want, okay? I don't know if you can still see that. So that's about the thickness we want, and we can just, you're supposed to hold on to it till it cools down, but I've just dropped it. But thankfully this bit has stayed nice and straight. A little bit kinked at the end, all right? And that is it. You just hold it until it dries, okay? And then you can put it down. Move your light. You can leave that lit. Just move it out of the way. Okay, zoom out a bit. And you can see now we have a very thin wire stretched from that piece of sprue. Very, very easy. You do it 3 or 4 times and you get used to doing it. So we have another very long piece of wire there now. Okay, we can put that to one side. We can do it in a little bit. So we'll just nip that a bit off. And we'll try and see if we can make some a little bit thicker, just so I can show you that you can make it any thickness that you want. So again, take a bit of sprue. Make sure you leave enough at the end so you can grab hold of it without burning yourself. Very gently, about inch, half inch above the flame. Just keep rolling it around until it starts to bend on its own. Nice and easy. Take your time. No rush, it will start to go on its own. Alright? Just wait for it to start to bend. It takes a moment, but it will start to go. Alright, there we go. We are starting to go. Okay? Keep on rolling it. Let it go. Grab the end, and we're going to make this a little bit thicker. So we're not going to stretch it out as far. Just hold that there. Wait for it to cool. And there we go. We have a wire that is not a huge amount thicker, just a little bit thicker. If we get that other piece that we've just done, which is, yeah, and we put that next to it. It's not a huge amount thinner, but it is. So if I put that piece, we'll move this out of the way. Get these two pieces together, he says, as he tries to get them together. Can we see that? One bends a lot easier than the other. There we go. The thickness isn't huge, but it all depends on how much you stretch it. So if we just cut that off there, we'll get another piece of sprue because that's getting a little bit short. We'll try it one more time. Keep on rolling, keep on rolling. We're going to go a little bit sooner this. As soon as this starts to bend a tiny little bit, we're going to go for it. So there. All right. So pull, 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 pull. It's a little bit tougher. Okay. This is good for making, what would you know, like a proper thick antenna on top of a tank or something like that. There we go. So you can see the difference in the sprue sizing. So we have a nice thick piece, but obviously it's a lot thinner than what the sprue was, and you might find uses for it. I did this for a Conqueror Mark 1 I made, and it's a little bit thinner than this, and it was for like a thick antenna, small thick antenna on top of the tank. So yeah, you can stretch this to any thickness you want. If you want it a little bit thicker, as soon as it starts to bend, start to stretch it. It all depends on how warm you get the plastic, it's how much you can stretch it. So there we go, we're starting to stretch now. So I'm just gonna go a little bit like there. I'm gonna let that cool at that point. So again we've got another different thickness. So if we put these here, you can see quite thick, a little bit thinner, and then we've got some that's really thin. You can't really see that, can you? So I'll put it on my hand, and then so we have the first piece, which is like so, quite thick, and we've warmed it up a little bit more. We have a piece that's like that, and then of course when we've got it really, really warm, we've got a really, really thin pot. So if you want it thicker, don't warm it up quite as much. I'm going to zoom the camera in so we can see that on the bench a little bit better. We'll get those out of the way. Put our light out because we're not going to be using that for a little while. I'll zoom you in. Always go the wrong way. So there we go. That's a little bit better. You can see that was the first bit we did. There's the full length one that we did, and you can see how thin that one turned out. Okay, and then obviously we did a big thick one there, and we did a little bit thicker. So you can get this stuff as thick or as thin as you want it. Just practice, practice, practice. Just get some sprue and spend half an hour just trying different temperatures or the amount of time that you warm it up for, and just spread it out at different lengths to see what you can get. Okay, but like I say, any younger modelers out there that have never done this before, all right, just get an adult to supervise you while you're doing it. Okay, so I'm going to tidy my bench up, and then we're going to get some of this thin stuff onto the top of this engine. So see you in a moment. Okay folks, so we have cut up some of that sprue into very small little strips like so, And we are now going to mount these onto the engine. Now, I've already mounted one, just a trial to see if it did work before I came here and made a fool of myself. And there we go, we have one wire sticking out. I'm going to zoom that in a bit so we can get too much of the glare from that light. So you can see there we have one coming out, and obviously this is going to be bent over like so on camera. Yeah, this is going to be bent over like so into the front of the radiator. So we're going to want to put a few more in. So what we've done on the top of the engine, on the detail of this engine, there's some little holes. Come on, focus. Yeah, and what I've done is I've gone and I've taken a very small drill bit, like so. Okay. And we've just drilled some small holes in the top of here. Focus. There we go. In where those indentations are. And all we're doing is we're taking one of these that we've pre-cut. These. And we're just dropping it. Oh, it disappeared. There it is. We're just dropping it into the hole. If you can get hold of it, of course. I need more hands. Please send spare hands to me. So we are going to take this fibre. I'm just going to thread it into the hole that we've drilled, if it'll go in, of course. Let's try this one. There we go. And just push it into that hole, like so. So now we have two in there. I'm going to put a little bit of Tamiya extra thin on there, so it melts and it holds itself in place, just like that. So we now have two wires in there, and we're going to do that with all the other holes. Another piece. This hole may need to be made a little bit bigger because that is quite small. So, and I keep going off camera. There we go. Another one in there. Again, a bit of extra thin, just to get that melting, so we can push it into place like so. And we have one more to put in here. Into that last hole, like so. You might find that this just doesn't work at all. I'm hoping that it does, because it will add that extra little bit of detail to the engine that you wouldn't normally get. And of course, the hobby's all about experimenting and finding new ways to do things. So I've never done this before, so we shall see what result we get. Should be interesting. So there we go. We'll let that completely dry. Obviously these are going to be bent over and then they'll get trimmed to fit. So, and we'll probably drill some little holes in the front of the radiator block so we can slot these in. So we'll see how it goes. So that is the engine complete. Shall come out a little bit, and there we go. One engine finished. There's the other side. So that is the first part of the build finished. Okay folks, so that engine is now complete. As you can see, we've bent those wires over in preparation and ready. They are going to be manipulated a little bit more and made a little bit more of a better shape. So what we need to do now is find some way to mount it so we can paint it. So what I've done is those bits of sprue that I've been stretching, okay, I've stretched one out a little bit so it comes to a fine point, flatten the end, and the other side we've taken to a sharper point. And what we're going to do, this is so we can push it into some of this packing material so it holds it in place. So whenever you get a packing material with this sort of stuff in it, save it, because it's good for making holders for all your bits and pieces. And most of the time we do use a proper clamp, something like this, but there's nowhere on here to mount that to, really, not effectively. here on screen. Not effectively. Okay, so what we're going to do, like I say, I'll flatten that end off and we're going to glue it to the underside of there. Okay, and then when we finish painting it, we can just break it off, and all that's not painted is a very tiny dot underneath there, which you are never going to see because it's mounted inside the engine bay, like so. So all we need to do is get some of our glue, put a very small dot on the bottom there, and you're literally just going to touch this onto the model and wait for it to start to set. Shouldn't take it too long. Okay, so that took a little bit longer than I expected, but it is stuck there now. It's still not going to be strong enough to mount it into this yet, so I'm just going to wait for that glue to dry a little bit more, so it's strong enough to support its own weight, like so. That should do. Now let's see if it falls off. So there we go. So we are now just going to push that into there, and we're going to leave that to dry properly before we start painting. So that is the engine built. Now this video is going to be quite long because we've gone through quite a lot of detail of how I do my build processes, and we've covered some sprue goo, we've covered some stretching of some sprue. So I'm going to call this video here because I'm going to guess it's around about an hour long, and I don't usually do videos this long. I usually try to keep my videos to about half an hour, but because we've gone into so much detail for one piece, that's how long it is. So the next video we are going to be moving on to the rest of the chassis. It's not going to take as long next time because the way I usually show my builds is I will build it off camera. Any problems or any issues I have, I start recording and show you those problems with that specific kit. So next episode won't be as long, I promise. So with that said, I would like to say thank you for watching. Thank you to eModels for having me here, and don't forget eModels.co.uk for all your modelling needs, and we shall see you next time. Ta-ta.